Kenyan who believes they've got capacity, character, and competence to lead a nation,
right.
You present yourself, and then Kenyans will take a decision. And also, he probably sits in the group of Raila orphans. There's a group of people who are very relevant when Mr. Raila Odinga was alive, and in his absence, then nobody's very sure of their political capital. But going back to Uganda, you raised the fundamental issue. When you look at the signs coming from Uganda, I mean, you know, when you're electing the Pope, you look for the white smoke.
Yeah. When
you're looking at the signs coming from Uganda, probability again of President Museveni retaining his position as head of state is almost 100%. I mean, that may be uncomfortable to Deus and the other gentlemen, but the probability of him winning is 100%. So President Museveni is not feared. Rather, President Museveni doesn't fear the outcome on 17th, as is going to be declared by their IBC. What he fears is how the nation is going to react to the announcement and how he's going to manage it. And you raised that fundamental issue. That is the reason why majority of African leaders fear respecting the 2-term limits or going home very early in the day. Because it's the fear of the unknown. They're not sure how they're going to be treated when they left office. And that is how Kenya comes in. Kenya set a very good example. You would recall, a few days before former President Moi left office, everybody was in town saying, yote yawezekana bila Moi. There was a certain mood in the nation. But as soon as Moi left office, he handed power. When he was handing over power, then I was a cab reporter. I attended the function at Uhuru Park. Yeah. He was pelted with mudstones. And people said, wait a minute, is that how you treat President Moi, who has decided to hand over power? And we must call a spade a spade.
Right.
That President Kibaki did not treat Moi well during, on that particular day. He almost insulted him. And President Moi, with grace, stood there. But guess what? A year later, when Moi came back to town, there was a certain love and respect for President Moi. The same thing happened for President Kibaki. People said, yote yawezekana bila Kibaki. But a few years into retirement, respect and love for President Kibaki. Even for President Kenyatta, you would recall, the hustler versus the aristocracy conversation, the haves and have-nots, people are saying, yote yawezekana bila Uhuru. But now when President Uhuru appears in public, everybody wants to shake his hand, everybody wants to listen to what he's talking about. So this phobia that majority of African leaders have, because you see, they've created, I mean, majority of African leaders become more powerful than the states. They become more powerful than institutions, more powerful than the systems. So there's a general fear that if they go home, how are they going to be treated? A good example is the head of the IBC in Uganda has failed to pronounce himself on critical issues, on the violence being visited on people who are campaigning. Like, for instance, that scientist, the political scientist from Uganda has indicated, if campaigns are supposed to end at 6 o'clock, but then you stop Bobi Wine at a roadblock the entire day, then a minute to 6 you tell him now go and do your campaign. Then a minute later he's at another roadblock, he's told now, excuse me sir, it's 6 o'clock. Now, if the head of the IBC does not pronounce himself, then what are you telling people? And we have a similar situation in Kenya, where Musalia Mudavadi has said, maybe we need to think about a referendum moment. But Ethekon in Kenya has also not pronounced himself. Now, the reason why I'm talking about the electoral bodies is you must create confidence and trust in the electoral process. Because, I mean, technically speaking, voting is what happens on the material day on the 15th. But there is voter suppression before the voting day. Do all these candidates have a free chance to go and campaign? How is the media covering them? How is the civil society treating them? You know, in Kenya, fortunately enough, you may not know who is going to become the president till IBC has declared the winner. Because normally the win is 51, 52, 48, 49. That is why in Kenya, by-elections are very important, especially the one for Malava. Everybody was waiting to see the UDA candidate in Dakwa. Is he going to win? What about Mbere? The UDA candidate is going to win. So that people can start establishing themselves who is likely to win. But when you have an election whereby before an election, you actually know who is going to win, then can you really say that was a free and fair election? Especially in a country called Uganda, where there is massive unemployment, where you've got so many young people. I mean, don't you think it's a tragedy that my friend here, Deus, his entire life has only known one president?
Well, Deus, don't you? Is it a tragedy? Would you feel